Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the occasional news series, Cardinal News Update. Joined today by the editor of the Cardinal News, Dwayne Yancey. Dwayne, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you here. And I have been, as somebody who is loves demography and loves to geek out over numbers. You've had several editorials about migration in Virginia, and I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I know there's been a little bit some new developments, so I thought it'd be a good time to revisit that. Um, One of the things that there's been a lot of talk of out migration, people leaving Virginia for one reason or another, but Virginia isn't really losing population, correct?
Correct. This will require demography lesson, and I should caution that I'm not a demographer. I just play one on TV. Um, so I'm really the publicist for the actual demographers. So there are two ways that population changes. Either births outnumber deaths or deaths outnumber births, or more people move in or more people move out. So you got four ways there in two different categories. Virginia overall is gaining population. And so if that's all you look at, that is maybe all you need to know, that Virginia is gaining population. Beneath the surface, though, there are lots of changes. The only reason Virginia is gaining population is because births outnumber deaths and also outnumber all of the people moving out of state. More people are moving out of Virginia than into Virginia.
That has not always been the case, correct?
That has not always been the
considered
case.
a growing state in terms of
Yes.
migration.
The change first happened in 2013. Up until 2013, Virginia always had more people moving in than moving out. Starting in 2013, more people started moving out than moving in. And it's been consistent that way ever since.
And is this of the moving out and moving in people? A lot of times we think of people leaving to retire or whatever. Is there a differentiation in age groups as far as you know?
There used to be, but not anymore. When this trend first started, it was simply with the older age cohorts in the 60s and up. So basically people who retired and moved out of state. Your classic snowbirds who generally moved to somewhere in the southeast. Now this is happening in every age cohort in Virginia. So we have seen that change.
You in the most recent story I read, you brought in some new data from a source that I used to use when I taught demography and AP Human Geography, and that is the U-Haul and I think it's United Van Lines survey data. And where's that come from, and why do folks think that's interesting?
Well, the moving van companies know who their customers are, and they know where their vehicles are going to and from. And so every year they put together those stats and release them to the public. Probably a publicity thing on their part, but it's their true data. And for the first time in quite a long time, they show Virginia having more people move in than move out. So the question is, has Virginia's out-migration trend stopped and started to reverse? Well, if you look just at the moving van company, the answer would be yes. It's a small change, but it's a change.
Right, and keeping in mind that not everybody moves with a moving company, and that implies a certain income level or whatever if you're going to call a moving company, but still a change from the past.
A change, and what you said there is the catch, that not everyone uses a moving van company, and the people who do tend to be more well off than those who aren't, who can just put their
Of
stuff
course,
in the back
that's
of the
actually
car.
better, right? If we say, well, the people who can afford a moving company have more money, and that's who's there. We're seeing a trend where they moving in. Do you have a sense, or do we have a sense of what the biggest reasons people are moving here or not are?
Well, we know from United Van Lines, which tells us They list 6 reasons why people might move, and 3 of them are about even in terms of more people inbound or more people outbound. Those would be retirement, health, and family. The 3 areas where there's a big difference between the inbound people and the outbound people are lifestyle, job, and cost. So for jobs, they show more people moving out of Virginia than moving into Virginia for job-related reasons. So if you're concerned about jobs, maybe that's not so good. For lifestyle and cost, 2 separate categories, and each one, they show more people moving into Virginia for those reasons than moving out of Virginia for those reasons.
And that would seem to add credence to a lot of the efforts that are being made to promote our clean environment, outdoor lifestyle, mountain biking, all of that kind of stuff, right?
All that. And these are statewide numbers. So, if somebody on the eastern side of the state is, pushing the Chesapeake Bay, they would fit in too.
Sure.
Now, all of this data is contradicted by some other data. Demographers at the University of Virginia at the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service. That's a mouthful. Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service. They have been analyzing postal change of addresses, zip code by zip code. And they're still doing that, but overall, statewide, what they show is just the opposite, that more people are transferring, their addresses out of state than into state. So
We can that's the thing about statistics, right? There's a million quotes that will tell you what statistics can be worth. And I would love to talk about the different regions of the state, but I fear that if we go down that road, we'll be talking for another 30 minutes. I want to just kind of wrap it up by saying, these numbers have somewhat been politicized by the Governor Youngkin's administration in terms of people are leaving, so we need to cut taxes. And tell me if I'm being wrong in my very simple analysis, or that his policies are working because now people are coming here. Do you get a sense that these numbers are being politicized in some ways?
They're certainly being used by the governor. Whether they're being politicized in sort of the classic sense of that word, I'm not sure. Governor Youngkin is the first governor who has really made a big deal about these numbers. He talked about them in his campaign. Granted, it was not the main part of his campaign, but he did mention them. And as governor, he has made a big deal that this is one of the metrics he pays attention to and wants to reverse. Now, his explanation, which is disputed by others, is that the reason Virginia's net outmigration began in 2013, is because of Virginia's tax policies. That short version, our taxes are too high, and other states in the Southeast that are attracting people, their taxes are lower. Therefore, for him, that's an argument that Virginia should cut taxes. Others, Delegate Vivian Watts, Democrat from Fairfax County, she talked about these figures during the recent General Assembly session. She comes to a very different conclusion. She says the problem is that Virginia is not sufficiently invested in transportation. If you dig down deeper, the part of the state that is losing the most people is Northern Virginia.
Right, which
totally blows our mind.
The first time I read that, because I'm like, what? I thought everybody was moving here for Hampton Roads in Northern Virginia.
Yeah. That's been the big change in the past few years, is that Northern Virginia is seeing net outmigration. And again, that just, for someone who grew up in Virginia, for years and years and years, Northern Virginia is what's gaining population. And now, not only does Northern Virginia have net outmigration, it's losing population overall. So it's like, my head hurts trying to comprehend that.
Well, and it's not for us to figure it out entirely because there's so many factors you could have.
Yeah.
You could have, COVID and remote work is probably somebody's studying that, I'm sure. And whether people are moving from Northern Virginia to Maryland or West Virginia or other places that are they're staying in the region. So there's a lot to unpack when it comes to these numbers.
There certainly is. So from Delegate Watt's point of view, she looked at the Northern Virginia numbers and says, the problem is that traffic is too congested. We haven't spent enough on transportation. So to that extent, yes, these numbers, or at least the causes. I mean, everyone agrees the numbers are real. There's no dispute about that. They may disagree about the underlying causes. Governor says taxes. Delegate Watt says, lack of spending on transportation in Northern Virginia. We will not settle that today, I suspect.
Right.
But you're right that one question is to the extent that COVID has something to do with it. Some of these trends are starting to happen pre-pandemic, but certainly we are now seeing more remote. Yeah, I work remotely. I haven't moved, but I work remotely, and other people we know have moved.
I mean, I work in a place that has a perfectly good television studio, and here I am in my office at home.
Yeah,
So we're both in that same boat.
yeah.
Well, again, I will keep revisiting this occasionally because I'm fascinated by it, and but I would encourage readers to and viewers to go to Cardinal News and read Cardinal News. This article we're discussing today, the editorial was written on March 15th, but there are links to it to several stories that you've done in the past about this as well. So just if this conversation is interesting to somebody watching at home or watching on their phone, I hope they'll go to Cardinal News, subscribe to Cardinal News, and also subscribe to Echo. So Dwayne, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Yeah, these demographic columns have proven very interesting. So much so we've compiled them all in one place on our site so people can find them. So if you go to cardinalnews.org, you'll see projects. Look under projects, and you'll find them all gathered together there.
Okay, great, and thanks, Dwayne, and appreciate you, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.